please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
A very good morning. Welcome to Chartbusters. Well, yesterday was a good trading session and today we're getting some follow through as well. We're trading in the green for the Nifty as well as the Sensex, so things looking quite good. And I'll say that this is a really good move that we're seeing, because you pull up the contribution chart, you'll see TCS that we saw a large trade early morning. Well, that's dragging us by close to around 20 points. So if we just add that, well, the Nifty would have been up. You would be closer towards the 10,500 odd mark. So things looking good with TCS really not coming and playing an innings at all today, and yet in fact we are seeing, and the advances now they're moving away from the declines. So Mangalam, I'll have to say, just take a look at the Nifty Bank. Big gains is what we are seeing over there, and put yesterday's gains and today's gains together, well, the bulls will say this is our week.
The bulls will definitely say this is our week. You know, yesterday we were talking about the Virat Kohlis of the world. The Nifty hit a double century. Then there was the Sensex, which was hitting 600 points. The Nifty Bank said, hey, let me play as well.
Yeah.
So they played about 300 points as we're speaking, and it's also aided by the technical factor. It crossed the 200-day moving average out there. But interestingly for the Nifty, the 100-day moving average is what we've crossed today. Yesterday we crossed the 20-day moving average. Let's see where we go now, because from here, if the belief is that we're going to go higher, then 10,600 is the maximum call open interest. 50-day moving average is thereabouts, and this series, our high so far was 10,632. That is something we'll be watching out for. The bulls, they believe that the early morning over, the first over is theirs, because the 10,400 put seeing a lot of writing, and someone's taking the charge towards the 10,500 mark as well. That put should come up for you. In the first hour of trade itself, the 10,500 put has added a fair amount of shares in open interest. All that and more, but first up, all the top stories that we're tracking at this point in time. TCS in focus on the back of that big bulk deal that happened today. 1.7% equity changed hands as Tata Sons sold stake in the company.
And PSU banking stocks, they soared in trade, with Bank of India surging over 9% on news that the bank has recovered NPAs worth 7,000 crores. The management tells CNBC TV18 that the recovery will reflect in Q4 results, and all NCLT accounts will be solved in the first quarter of FY19.
Bank of Baroda too surges, gains about 6%. Management tells CNBC TV18 that they have no exposure to the Nirav Modi case, expects asset quality to largely remain under sustainable level.
And Interglobe Aviation is under pressure as the DGCA grounds 11 A320neo aircrafts belonging to Indigo and GoAir due to their faulty Pratt & Whitney engines. Kotak says no material disruption in operational performance is expected and retains a buy rating with the target price of around 1,500 rupees per share.
US FDA releases details of 6 observations to Biocon's Malaysia unit. CNBC TV18 accesses the observations issued.
Well, we have Ashwini Gujral with us to take us through his strategy on the Nifty. Well, Ashwini, what a start to the week. The Nifty yesterday put on roughly around 200 points. Today as well, we have put on nearly around 50 points without any contribution coming in from TCS. You had a buy call in the morning. Would you like to revise the stop loss upwards or the targets upwards?
Well, TCS is the 12th man today, so I guess it'll have to carry the drinks.
It's not even bringing the drinks, looks like, today.
Well, drinks are not needed because market has lots of momentum. See, the issue today is that the yields came off. Some PSU banks showed you recovery, etc. So that was the fuel that was needed. The market was already fairly short on the financials. So that has kind of pulled the PSU banks and the corporate lenders also higher. So my sense is that we could have another good day on the Bank Nifty, and the rally could build on, at least on the Bank Nifty. Nifty will be subdued because IT is against it. But banks, I think, are going to roar through the day, because once short covering comes in, it does not go in for any sort of profit booking. So my sense is Axis and ICICI Bank should really go up, because while the Bank Nifty was falling, these stocks got hammered as well. So today is the day to buy, corporate lenders, PSU banks, and financials in general, because NBFCs are also doing well. So that way, there could be, say, 150, 200, 25,200 thereabouts still to come on the Bank Nifty. As far as individual stocks are concerned, ICICI Bank is a buy with a stop of 300, target of 315. Axis Bank is a buy with a stop of 525, target of 550. Union Bank is a buy with a stop of 94, target of 102. And somewhere we are trying to catch up with the rest of the markets also. So we needed a bit of trigger for that to happen. We may not catch up all the way, but at least if other markets have rallied, say $100, we'll rally probably 50. So that 50 rally is now happening, but around 10,000, 550, 600, there could be problems. So that would be a nice zone to take some money off.
All right, Ashwini, as we speak at the high point of the day, but from the broader markets which are outperforming, any word on the future group stocks? In fact, future consumer up 15%, enterprises up around 12%, and future retail up around 2%. Any of the future group stocks which you think are worth a look at?
I think future consumer should be bought. It's at the 200-day moving average. These were the guys who were outperforming earlier. Today, mid caps are also beginning to participate after yesterday's move. You know, the confidence comes back. Earlier, yesterday's move was quite jittery. You know, every 40 points, 50 points, the bulls took a step back. So today's rally is happening with much more gusto. So I think future group should do well today.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Ashwini. We'll chat with you in the in the next couple of hours as well. But shifting focus then to the primary market, state-owned Bharat Dynamics that opens its IPO for subscription today. The price band has been fixed at around 413 to around 425. To understand what's the outlook going ahead, we have Mr. Bhaskar, who joins us, the CMD of Bharat Dynamics, in the studio. Hi, Mr. Bhaskar. Thanks so much, sir, for joining us today. Well, you know, the street looks at numbers always, and the first half of this year has been a bit of a down start, I think, to FY18. If you could tell us, why exactly have you done only around, what, 1,640 crores in terms of the top line? Was there some one-off, some disruption? And also, what does FY19 look like?
Actually, first half, we normally cover about 40% of our revenues. It will be caught up balance in the second half.
Okay.
So, said that, but then one or two production lines had some initial technical snag, which it has been overcome and behind it, and we will be catching up in the numbers in the second half.
All right. So, second half, can we do something around 4,200 crores? That's still
plus only. It will be plus.
That's still a revenue degrowth, right? As compared to FY17, where you did about 4,000.
We'll be around last year. We should be catching up for last year's.
Okay. Going forward, you have a couple of plants which you have decided to open in Amravati as well as Ibrahimapatnam. When do they come on stream, and what kind of revenues do you expect from there?
These two new plants are becoming a necessity because of the two new production lines, expected to be, coming into the stream. One is a program called Very Short Range Air Defense System and Wish Road. That is already a global RFP has been floated, and the technology partner is expected to be identified by government as a government-to-government arrangement, and is going to be given as a nominated program for BDL. So this program is expected to be coming into the operations shortly, and our Amaravati plant is going to be built up on a greenfield approach. So I expected to turn out a revenue, maybe say financials 2021, 22, 23, around that periods. Whereas, but that's a long, it's a requirement of all the three services for a long period. Similarly, Ibrahimapatnam, if we have to take, it is for a program called MRSAM, and this program is also going to be required for all the three services. It's also an additional new production line. Our phase 1 activity is already completed, and phase 2 is being in progress, construction activity, and expected to be in stream possibly in another 1 or 2 years.
All right, sir, just to get back in terms of a guidance, you said this year was a down year. All right, this market will take that. But what about FY19? This year we end up with around 4,200, 4,300 crores. What kind of a revenue number are we looking at for the next year? That's FY19. And give us a sense in margins. You have been doing roughly around 12 to around 14%. So if you have to give all those who are looking to subscribe into this IPO, give them some numbers. What can we look at in FY19 as well as in terms of margins as well?
Yeah, what I can tell is 11,000 crores is our outstanding order.
Okay.
To be possibly completed in coming 1 or 2 years, about 2 years plus approximately. So that itself averages to almost around
5,000, 5,500.
But then we have another inflow of orders coming in at the rate of average 2,000 crores. So while specifically we will not be able to say, but definitely it would be exciting. We are also looking for some export orders, coming in for execution in the coming year. because we already had one export order booked recently. As government policies allowed for exporting, now we started exploring this market, and we had recently bagged one order and against a global competition. So it's for a torpedo, and I think this would start getting executed next year, even though revenue may not be that big, but then these are all adding up.
So what is the opportunity you're looking at in terms of export? What kind of revenue targets do you have from this sector over the next few years? And order inflow, you said, was what, about 2,000 crores per year?
Average generally comes up for our otherwise regularly running anti-tank weapons and other torpedoes and other lines. So that's the average, but then that big ticket orders are expected to be there, like say a continuing Akash production, and continuing MRs, new products coming into like MR7 Wish Road. So I think that's what is about the order book. But then export potential is concerned, yes, we just started exploring it, and we had the success in view of the government's permissions now. And I'm sure that we would be 1 year down the line, we'll have a full potential known to us, possibly as we are exploring now.
All right, so final question from my end then before we let you go. We're going to be working with revenues of around 5,000 crores approximately. Margin number, that's point number one. Point number two is what kind of a ROC number are you looking at going ahead? And also point number three, how much of cash do you have in your books, sir? Three-part question.
Yeah, we have our cash around 1,300 crores on our books, and we are a zero debt company in that way. And definitely our orders will be executed as we can see in the way.
ROC and margins?
ROC will be the same way, more or less.
22, 23% or 25%?
Around 22, around that, yes.
22% is ROC. And what kind of margin number are we looking at? 13%?
Yeah, margins would be around the same as it was earlier.
All right. All right. Let's move to the story that we're tracking right now. The US hiking anti-dumping duty threefold on Indian shrimps from 0.84% to 2.34%. Ramakant Viyakula, the CEO of the company of Waterbase, as well as Dipesh Kashyap, a mid-cap analyst at Equirus, join us on the show. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us. First up, we'd go to Mr. Akula from Waterbase. Mr. Akula, earlier it was also, there was a provision of increasing it to 1.07. Then it was kept at 0.84. How sure are you of this number 2.34 as far as the duty is concerned, of this actually going ahead and being implemented?
See, this review happens every year, and this is the preliminary review, as you have mentioned. Even last year also we have seen this has come down by this final review that took place in the second half. So in all likelihood, the numbers do change. So I don't think we should get too this thing about the whole thing. In my view, this will not blunt the competitive edge that we have.
All right, Mr. Akula, you're into shrimp feed, right? Primarily, how much of your revenue comes in from shrimp feed?
I mean, we are primarily into shrimp feed.
Almost all your revenue comes from shrimp feed?
Almost over 95%.
95%. All right. Out of your shrimp feed, how much of it is exported? How much of it is exported to the United States? If you could.
So shrimp feed doesn't get exported.
Okay. Everything is consumed domestically?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Another question from my end then. In the shrimp feed business itself, we are seeing a lot of competition coming in. Avanti Feeds, I believe, has started their new plant. We have all the other companies starting their new plant. What does that do to your margins? Because earlier you did say that margins can drop also because of slightly higher raw material prices, which had corrected earlier.
I mean, if you look at the last year situation, I mean, we had low raw material prices, so the margin expansion has been witnessed across by all the companies. Now, currently, we have seen the movement of these important raw materials like soya, fish meal moving up from last November, December onwards. So typically in feed business, one can look at a PBT of around 12 to 13% comfortably. And last year, because of this abnormally low fish meal prices, which were hovering around 72 to 73 rupees for most part of the year, there had been higher margin levels for the companies. So going forward, I think still the feed business can give margin levels into double digits, that's for sure.
Okay.
Something, what we have seen last year, to expect the numbers to be around that would be a bit too optimistic.
But you're already doing double-digit margins, right?
Yeah, double digits are there in this business, but last year you have seen this has been towards very higher, in excess of 15-16% to 20%. That kind of situation may not be there this year.
Okay, Mr. Akula, what is your current market share? The last time you told us it was at around 7%. Has it increased from there, or is it holding at those levels?
We are holding at the same level.
And what about the amalgamation you were talking about? When does that come on stream? Has it already taken into effect? And once that takes into effect, how much does your capacity go up by?
I mean, Waterbase had one unit earlier, which had only 35,000 ton capacities. And this amalgamation now gives us 110,000 with the new plant, which is of 75,000 metric ton. So combined capacities today we have is 110,000.
All right, and what capacity utilization are you functioning at? One. Secondly, with this amalgamation, what happens to the promoter's stake in the company? Because we've seen that gradually increase from 52.5% all the way up to 63.6% in December.
Correct. I mean, with the amalgamation, the promoter's stake is around 63.5 or 6% now. And amalgamation is already taken place. This happened in last November. So the promoter's stake has gone up post that. So the December numbers that you are reading out is correct. It's about 63.6 or 63.5%.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much, Mr. Akula, for joining in and giving us those details. Well, Waterbase says they're not affected at all, as is they're not exporting anything, and that's why I think the stock has rebounded. It's up close to around 10%. But we have Mr. Dipesh Kashyap, analyst at Equirus, who joins in. Hi, Dipesh. Thanks so much for joining in. Dipesh, tell us, what is the situation on the ground, and tell us what are your main picks from this particular sector?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on the show. So the anti-dumping duties have been in place since 2005. So they used to be around 8 to 10% initially, but they have been coming down. So they get revised every year. So placing too much attention on anti-dumping duty doesn't make so much sense. Okay. So last year it was around 0.84%. This year, in the preliminary reviews, they have increased it to 2.34%. Okay. Now there are two kind of reviews that happen. One in March, that is a preliminary review, where then they have the discussions, and in August, September, they finalize the rates. So last year also, they initially had a rate of 1.07%, which they finally decreased to 0.84%. Now, we feel that this 2.34% can also be reduced in the August-September period. But even if it doesn't reduce, I don't think this 160 bips increase in the duties can have a much impact on Indian exports. Indian exports have been growing very fine. Like in January, they grew by 49%. And the underlying demand in US is also increasing at a very good pace, around 20%. So if the underlying demand keeps on improving, then India will keep on taking the incremental market share, and all these companies like Waterbase, Avanti, Apex, they will keep on benefiting from that.
It's a stock that's buzzing around after it recovered NPAs worth 7,000 crores. We spoke to the MD of the company earlier today for the outlook on the NPAs going ahead. Let's listen in to what he had to tell us.
Have you all managed to recover 7,000 crore rupees this year from Jan onwards?
Yes. In the meantime, we have recovered around 7,000 crores.
Okay.
So that will be reflected in this quarter's performance.
Okay. And you may do more?
Yes, some other also expected to be recovered.
So in the next couple of months, how much do you think you can recover? Another 2,000-3,000 crores?
I hope so. Q1, Q2 will be very good, but this Q4 we are still calculating on the numbers, because of this we are just discussing with different promoters and persuading them to recover whatever overdue amount. So that will depend on the entire process. But Q1, I know you see all these big accounts, NCLT accounts are expected to be resolved in Q1, and we are expecting a huge write back on that account.